Morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone else.
Yeah, great to see so many of you on the call this morning. There's a few other stragglers which we're going to be letting in as we go. But yeah, really pleased to see you all here this morning. And before anything else, congrats on completing your application. That's no mean feat to have got that in. And you know, today for me is actually the most exciting workshop of the whole process. It's all about basically what happens now and how you take your fantastic ideas into tangible forms that you can take out into the real world, start testing, and kind of progressing your ideas into the future. So my name's Ed. I'm one of the two facilitators this morning. And Will, do you want to say a quick hi?
Hi guys, I'm Will. I'm another one of the facilitators. Yeah, I was actually involved in the Maze Entrepreneur Program in 2021 when I won the award for tech. And yeah, fast forward 2.5 years, going strong full time, team of 4, and we're bringing the product to market.
Awesome. So we have got 2 hours together. I hope you've got your teas and coffees filled up because it's going to be an intense session. We're going to cover lots of different stuff. But our first kind of prompt to you all is that we're going to be covering some approaches to kind of building and testing software products. But we are really, really happy to have Will with us today because he is a engineer with a really high-performing hardware product in the environment space. So use this time. We'd love to hear all of your questions in the chat, or even better, you can put your hands up and unmute yourself. We've got, you know, it's a relatively small group of 20 or so, so we can make this as interactive as possible. Kumar says, I can't hear you. Show of hands. Well, I was going to say show of hands if you can't hear me. That is a terrible question, but it's flawed. I'm assuming that everyone else can hear. And so we're going to press on. And hopefully Kumar can fix audio issues in the background, but Will, maybe in the chat, you could drop a note to Kumar. So where are we? I'm going to share my screen in a second. Okay, hopefully you can all see some slides. Let's say Maze Entrepreneur Program 2023. No, these are not the right slides. Where are we? Okay. Today is all about how to take ideas forward. So we're going to learn how to build and test out your ideas using something called a minimum viable product, or MVP. And this is all about your cheapest, scrappiest version of your idea, which lets you begin testing different hypotheses that sit behind your idea. We're also going to be looking at different approaches to building MVPs. So we're going to be covering landing pages, no-code app design. You guys will have a chance to build out your first logos and color palettes, and you'll think about kind of what a roadmap from going from idea to fully fledged MVP might look like. And then in the last section, we're going to think about what it takes to build out a community of advocates, of users, and of paying customers. And then the last step, how to actually launch a product into market. So Will and I are going to be leading the session, and Will is also on hand to kind of manage the chat as we're going along. But just a quick intro to those of you who haven't been to previous workshops. My name's Ed. My background is a mixture of kind of co-founding startups, building and scaling other people's startups in kind of ops leaderships role, and also running entrepreneurship and startup programs in multiple countries across the world. Another little kind of sprinkle of interest for today is that I actually work for an impact VC called Zinc. So for those of you working in health and environment, we are actually actively investing in early stage entrepreneurs. So I'll share my LinkedIn later. And if you are looking to build this and make it happen and look for investment, we're looking for people like you. So Will, quick intro to you to build on what you said earlier.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be involved in at the point of entry, and yeah, thanks to the competition, um, yeah, we were able to start developing forward over the course of my final year of university, and yeah, I was able to get the business somewhere that I was able to go full time afterwards, and yeah, we've raised our pre-seed, we're now raising our seed, and yeah, we're starting to have some good traction on the client side with Yorkshire Water, Network Rail. So yeah, we had humble beginnings at the start of the program, but it's really helped propel us to where we are today. So I'm immensely grateful and hope it's as good of an opportunity and program for you as it was.
Awesome. And Will, I don't know whether it's just on my end, but you broke up a little bit. So I'm not sure if there's issues on your Wi-Fi, but we're going to press on. So question for the group, what happens now? What's next for your ideas? Feel free to write in the chat. Are you building your product? Are you raising investment? Are you doing more customer research? Helen says building a demo or MVP. It's good to hear. You're in the right place. James, formulating product and seeking ethics approval for testing clinically. That is an important but not an easy path to take. Great. Okay. And how long do you think it will take to build the first version of your idea? Write in the chat. How long do you think you need to build the first version of your ideas? Or if you've already built a product, how long did it take you? Helen says 3 weeks. James, 3 weeks. Common trend here. 6 to 12 months. 7 to 12 months. 1 to 2 months. Okay, interesting to see a range of different answers there. I'm sure also we have a range of different products. And then my next question, how much money do you think you'll need to make this happen? £12,000 as Alexa, 80K, 100K, Anna, 150K or £150, 1 to 2 months. Okay, so this is always interesting because we ask these questions because today is partly about encouraging you to think differently. In 2024, I would suggest it's kind of, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur and an easier time to build first product really cheaply, really easily, and really quickly. And to bring that to life, I wanted to share a story from probably the most interesting, talented kind of mentor that I've come across through my own kind of startup experience, who's a guy called Tom Chi. Some of you might have come across him. He used to run Google X, which was the innovation arm of Google. He built the first ever Google Glass, which at the time in 2013 was like a totally cutting edge piece of computing hardware for augmented reality. And we were in a workshop with him, and he said to us, how long do you think it took us to prototype the first version of Google Glass? This very complicated piece of computing hardware. And we wanted to impress this guy because it was a kind of very cool human being. So we were like trying to lowball the numbers, and one person was like 12 months, and the next person was like 6 months, and the next person said 3 months, next person said 1 month, and he was still there shaking his head. And he said it took us 45 minutes. And we were like, what? How is this possible? And what he had done is say, okay, how do we unbundle what we're actually trying to do and what we're trying to test here? And fundamentally, he was trying to test how human beings and human bodies interact with hardware through a device like these glasses sitting on your face. And so he took a pair of glasses, some chopsticks, a piece of string, a PDA device, which is like really old school kind of some computing hardware, and a coat hanger. And he basically set up the PDA with a computer mouse and these chopsticks so people could like click the mouse using their hands attached to the coat hanger at their back, and started running some tests. One of them was like, what kind of light frequencies do people interact best with? And he realized that frequencies like kind of reds were very kind of grating on people's kind of retinas. And so he was like, okay, we need to really think carefully about color frequencies. He also assumed that people would interact with computing hardware using their hands kind of like up here, you know, like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, for anyone who knows that film, when he manipulates screens with his hands up here. But if you try this, you realize you get really tired very quickly with your hands up here. So he was like, oh, actually, you would have your hands kind of more like at hip level. I can't show you on the screen, but like you get my point. And so he'd put this cobbled together prototype and took it out to 100 employees across Google. And by the end of an afternoon, had run some really, really powerful user tests, and he'd basically spent nothing and no R&D spend. So when they went out to build the product, they were in just a much better position to know what to build and how. So at the basic level here is what I call the kind of unbundling of different scientific tests to prove your hypotheses or disprove them. And so I use this image to kind of articulate that. So imagine you were the founder of a company who were looking to solve the challenge of getting your users from point A to point B. And I could say, okay, I'm going to build a car, and I'll start with a wheel, then 2 wheels and a chassis, and then a body, and then the internal engineering, electronics, control systems, and then I'll have a car. But what happens is that process might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, it's going to cost many, many millions of pounds. And most of all, I can't test at stages 1, 2, or 3. And I get to the end of that long and very expensive R&D process, and my customers might say, I don't care. I don't want this car. I don't like the design. And, oh, everyone's using electric vehicles these days, so we're not going to use like an internal combustion engine. And you wasted some serious cash and some serious time. And MVPs are about breaking this down. So instead, you could imagine, metaphorically, starting with a skateboard, 20 quid of Gumtree, then a scooter, then a bike, and then a motorbike, etc. And to kind of go further on that, here's a quote that I love from Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, who have done like, pretty well. And he says, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product you've launched, too late. And often, you guys are very talented group, especially, coming from academic settings, we kind of optimize things for perfectionism. And when we're building something that's like our baby, we want to make it really shiny, beautiful, and perfect right from the start. But MVPs are all about inverting that notion, moving fast, and being scrappy and imperfect. And I think in a moment, Will is going to walk us through like what that looked like for his own business.
Yeah.
Will, I'm sure you'll agree it wasn't
I
pretty.
think, yeah, it was pretty shocking. I was always very scared when it came to the moment where I'd actually have to show them what we were working on, and whether or not they would just laugh in our face and walk away and end the meeting right then. But I think, it's actually really only been in the past few months of what's been a 2.5 year journey that felt like really comfortable and excited to be able to share the product and show people what we're working on. So I know that's definitely rung true for us.
Yeah, for sure. So that is a kind of challenge for you guys to maybe shift your mindset in that respect. And to kind of give you a tangible example of what this looks like, here's a case study of Dropbox. So Dropbox now are kind of like almost quite old hat. They've been around for 14, 15 years. And there are a lot of players in this like cloud-based file sharing space. But back when they were starting, the way we shared files was totally different. It was localized, it sat on servers or like memory sticks or whatever. And their founders had a hypothesis, which is, we think people would really value being able to access their data and their files anywhere at any time. But they knew this was a complex project, right? Complicated coding, infrastructure, data privacy, etc. So they thought, okay, well, let's first of all test that people want this. So they didn't start with coding. They made a very scrappy, like illustrated video of their value proposition. This is how it's going to work. It's like 90 seconds long, and they basically pushed it out on social media, especially on Reddit. And they said, check out what we're doing, watch the video, and if you're interested, sign up here to find out more. And a crazy thing happened, which is 100,000 people signed up to find out more. And that is like, in terms of validating an idea, that's a pretty good result. So then they went to Y Combinator, which is probably the most successful startup program in history. And they said, listen, we deserve to be on this program and we don't have a product yet, but invest in us, back us, and we can prove that this is going to be successful because we've got 100,000 people waiting for this to be to happen. So YC invested in them, they built out the product, and they took it from there. And there are lots of different approaches to MVPs. And some of you will be on software, some of you hardware, some of you B2B, some of you D2C. And I would suggest that in different settings, these MVPs can actually be applicable in lots of different ways to different audiences. So the first one is called a smoke test, which is basically you set up a landing page, which is basically like a one-page description of what you're doing with a sign-up form, which like capturing email is like a good way of validating that people are interested. If I give away my personal information, it suggests some kind of intent. And you can use content marketing, Google Ads, Meta advertising, whatever, to push people to that landing page. And then you can say, okay, well, we've had 1,000 people come to the landing page and 80 of those people have signed up to find out more. That's like an 8% conversion rate. I'm like, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good conversion rate. So I'm beginning to get some tests and, importantly, building a database of users with their email addresses who could potentially use your product in the future. So real quantifiable tests plus a customer database. That's a really good start. Second, selling before you build. So R&D and product development, especially in like complicated tech or hardware, can be pretty expensive. So how can we de-risk that? Well, that's where crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter have kind of changed the game, which is they sell a vision through a promo video and give away merchandise or free access or little like benefits to people. And then they say, okay, once we've hit our funding goal, 50K, 500K, whatever it might be, we're ready to build. But they've de-risked that whole process by getting the money in, but proving demand for what they're going to build. The next is something called a concierge MVP, which is essentially to replicate manually something that might be like a software solution or a tech solution in the future. And an example here is a company called Unishoots, who came out of King's College London when I was working on the accelerator there. And the founder, Ross, was a videographer, and his hypothesis was corporates are fed up of the wait times of bringing in high quality media and videography into their businesses. I'm going to offer them access to top quality videographers in 30 minutes or less. And it's going to be an app. But he was like, yeah, it's cost me 20 grand to build that app. What can I do instead? So he used his network to build a WhatsApp group of videographers and went into corporates, and he was like, here is my pitch. This is what I'm going to offer you, which is give me a brief and a date, and I will find you a top quality videographer in 30 minutes or less. So what happened is that he basically had his phone under the desk, and he would write the brief and the date on WhatsApp, send it out to his 100 videographers. He would get a flurry of like profiles, CVs, portfolios back. And then he would say to people, right, I've got your videographers, they're booked, they're ready to go. No technology involved whatsoever. And that is a very interesting way to think about if you're building like a marketplace or a community platform, like what tools are available that could replicate that without you writing any code. There's a few questions coming in the chat in a moment. We're going to pause for them. The next one is one of my favorite case studies in startup because it's like so clever, which is a company called Zappos, founded by Tony Hsieh, who's like an incredible entrepreneur. He wrote a book called Delivering Happiness, which I'd recommend to all of you. But he was like a budding entrepreneur at the start of the e-commerce revolution. And he was like, the internet is going to change people's behavior, but I want to prove it. So I think people are going to buy stuff online pretty soon. But, you know, that takes complex technology, databases, a marketplace website, supply chains, logistics, warehousing, etc. So instead, he went around his local high street to all of the shoe retailers, and he was like, I've got a win-win offer for you. If you let me take photos of all of your shoe inventory, I'm going to put it on my website, and every time I sell those shoes, I'll give you the money. And everyone was like, woohoo, that's amazing, free marketing. Like, what is there to lose? But what happened is Tony Hsieh proved that people were going to buy shoes off his website. He didn't have to spend tons of money setting it up. And yet, you know, he passed on the money to the retailers. But he took all of their customers, their email addresses, their contacts. And so he was ready to go. He had proven that e-commerce was a potentially massive opportunity for making money and replacing traditional retail. The next one is Buffer, one of the leading social media scheduling tools. It's a pretty complicated product, but they launched with just their first initial feature. They didn't wait for all of their feature sets. They were like, okay, how do we do basic social media scheduling? Let's go live with this and build from there. And the last example we wanted to share was about no code. So a lot of you guys might be building software, but don't have a background in computer science or coding. Times have changed. These days, you can build like kind of incredible product without writing any code at all. And we're going to show you how you can use platforms like Glide later in the session to make that happen. At this point, I'm going to pause there and check in on the chat. Will, do you want to pull out some of the questions that have been coming through?
Sure, yeah, a few people are asking about yeah, what's kind of the benefit of Kickstarter, and maybe if we could go into a little bit more detail about why that's so good.
Yeah, sure. So these are all just options, right? And some of them will be more or less relevant for different people. Kickstarter works really well for like physical products and especially for D2C, so for consumers. So if I'm building like a cool new speaker that separates all of the stems from an audio track so you can cut the bass and the drums and the vocals or whatever, I don't know, just to make up an idea, you can make a promo video and see if people are interested, and they might get like a free t-shirt or like 30% discount access to the future product, or get access to like amazing playlists that you've created. I don't know, whatever those like giveaways might be. But you might say, okay, it's going to cost me 100 grand to build this product. You get 1,000 people to give you £100. You have de-risked that because you've got the money, and you've also proven that there are 1,000 people ready and waiting to buy this speaker, right? So it's about de-risking your idea.
Yeah, validating the demand before you spend your time and money trying to build the product. Yeah, there was also some more questions. It sounds like, you know, we've got a range of people at different stages of their MVP, and you know, some people have already built it and tested it, and yeah, they're very keen to crack on. But I think, you know, Ed, what would you have to say about, you know, building MVP being a really iterative process, and the importance of maybe having a roadmap, even if you've got something that works?
Yeah, definitely. So in a second, we're going to look at the like an approach to road mapping. But I think, you know, so for James and others who are asking about MVP strategy, it's like you might be testing lots of different things. So for example, one might be like your value proposition, just basically the text that describes what you're doing. We are developing a new skin formulation with these benefits, and this is maybe what it will look like. And you push people to the landing page, get them to sign up, or add them to a newsletter about approaches to managing your skin care routines or whatever. But you are testing, like, does the language resonate? Does the brand design resonate? Do the benefits and features of your product resonate? Like, your actual like IP doesn't exist yet. Sorry, everyone. 1 second. Ring at the doorbell. Will, take it.
Right. Yeah, but yes, I would say even if you do have a basic version of your MVP, that's awesome going. But yeah, think about exactly what you're trying to test with this iteration, plan out what those next steps are, and we're going to be taking you through kind of some more examples of what each of those stages will look like. And it's a constant journey, should be constantly iterating. You know, the product is never done, it's never complete. We've always sort of maybe got a couple different versions you're working on. One, the product that you're showing to your potential customers, another that you're potentially working on as the next iteration, and then the third is, I guess, kind of the dream version of the product. So it's good to have those three kind of product versions in mind and understand what it's going to take to get to each of those stages. We've got a few more questions, Ed, as well about, yeah, I guess this kind of comes into what we've been talking about. How important is it to be perfect first time? I mean, as we were saying earlier, it's an iterative process, and each time you're trying to work out what you're going to test and find opportunities to improve. But I think there's also something to be said about doing some user testing, which I know we're going to go into in a bit more detail.
Sure. So I'm going to pause on those questions now. They're all super valuable, but we're going to be covering them off, I think, in the next section. So we wanted to make this tangible by sharing a case study of a business who you might recognize. So write in the chat when I share what this company's mission is, whether you know what business we're referring to. So the mission, reduce food waste. The user needs, on one side, cafes and restaurants need additional revenue and reduce their emissions. On the buyer side, I want to reduce my household bills, like reduce time and increase my community connection. And the value proposition is to rescue unsold food from shops and restaurants to save it from going to waste and reduce customers' food bills. Any guesses what this business is? Yes, Roger and James, too good to go. So kind of amazing impact business, now operating in multiple countries in like 3 continents or more. But if I was the founder of Too Good To Go, thinking about this analogy of like how research and development and product development works, I could break this down. You know, my ultimate goal is an app. It's going to cost me time and money. But I could start with a landing page. And in a moment, we're going to show you a tool that lets you build a landing page. And here I want to test how many people sign up. Can I start building a user list of restaurants and customers for whom this would be interesting? I might create a little video being like, hey, I'm Ed, I'm the founder of this business. Would love, you know, sign up if you're interested in saving money on your food bills, making more money for your restaurant, whatever. Then, so that's a smoke test MVP, but I'm focusing this on specific outcomes. What am I looking to test? Signups, user lists, etc. Then a concierge MVP, this WhatsApp group. I can put photos of unsold food, maybe with discounts, on a chat and be like, hey, pick this up here, let's make it happen. And I'm testing interactions, the amount of conversation, how many people tell their friends, whether that WhatsApp group goes from 10 people to 1,000 people in a month. This is data, right? You're running science experiments here. The next one, you could run a newsletter. So again, listing photos of unsold food with discounts, and you're testing clicks on the newsletter, numbers of subscribers, how many people tell their friends to subscribe. Then you could turn this into a community platform, and this is like your Wizard of Oz. So replicating what you might do in the future, but using like a you know, out-of-the-box platform. So you can have forums, lists of suppliers, online courses about managing food waste. And again, you're testing active users, number of referrals. And that's a platform called Mighty Networks, which we can also show you today. Then a no-code app. So a single feature, but you can also test geolocation, lists of suppliers, rating those suppliers, testing whether people start paying for this without writing any code. And we're going to show you Glide in a moment. And then lastly, your full app. So this is like the skateboard to car analogy, going from simple, few features, very low cost, if any cost, through to complex and multiple features. Okay. Will, what did this look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I'll take you through a little bit the journey on more hardware side of things, which, you know, initially you might think, oh my God, we'd need something with custom electronics, injection molded parts, but I'm going to show you how you can break it down into a couple different manageable steps, and try and test out some of these different features. So early on, kind of proof of concept, we had some really nice visuals made. It can go on to somewhere like Fiverr or Upwork, and you can pay someone to build just some nice images of what your product might look like. And what you're trying to do here is really find out your unknown unknowns. What is it that the customer pain points, what are they going to find interesting and helpful? What are their first thoughts? And you can use this to show people and get them to give you some early feedback and become potentially some of your early users. I think what you're trying to show here is trying to identify is what are going to be these key features that you need to focus your limited time and energy on. So yeah, then you might progress to doing a little bit of user testing. So you might have something really basic. I'm talking maybe something that's 3D printed, or like an Arduino in a box, and you're starting to find out what's going to be the complex parts to do. You've identified what are the key features, and you're getting some feedback on those, and you're potentially again building your user group and getting some informal feedback, and you're trying to identify that single most important must-have and how you can make that be your killer unique selling point. When you get to something like trialing, this is where you probably have spent a bit of money to get aspects of it to be partially customized. So you start to know what's going to be the expensive parts and complicated parts of this product to make. Yeah, you've got that initial feedback. You're starting to prove out your entire value proposition. Maybe not just your USP, but all of your must-haves you're going to want to include, and you're going to work out what's going to be important for you guys to do in-house and what you might want to get some external support on. And at this stage, you might be able to get some people to pay money for the product and really show you've got some product market fit and get some initial revenue. Then you get to the much more expensive part of the process, where you're starting to involve consultants, and you're starting to get parts of the work to be done by others who've got specialism in, whether that's injection molding or designing the thing to actually get manufactured and assembled, and thinking about your supply chain and certification. And yeah, you're gonna at each stage have actioned a lot of this feedback that you're going to have gotten from having these cheaper, earlier stage prototypes, and you're gonna have implemented all of your nice to haves. And then you're going to have the final product, which is one that's got all of its regulatory testing done, and that is going to be scalable, and that you're going to sell in bulk, and it's going to have the full suite of features. So I hope that gives a little bit more context. I don't know, Ed, if you've got any thoughts on that.
No, I think this is super interesting. Like the case study that I shared was like D2C software, move fast, whatever. I think the really interesting thing here is Will's doing something really complex, and it's R&D intensive, but you can see, where did Will start? Like cardboard, right? Pen, paper. And for all of you, especially doing like IP or R&D or science intensive stuff, you don't have to wait for the 500 million pound, 500k million pound investment, 5 million pound investment. You can get going because you're unbundling, you're breaking down what you are testing into stages. So key takeaway for you guys is to think about how you break this stuff down to speed up the progress and speed up your validation, because you are like testing features, you're also building your user base. And so when, if relevant, you go to raise investment, you can say, well, our product is developed fast. We've proven it. We've got people signed up. We don't have a product yet, but we've got a list of people waiting to make this happen. And we've hacked this together at minimum cost. And suddenly they're like, These guys are entrepreneurs and this is a real business, right? This is de-risking. This is de-risking the like commercial potential of your idea.
I think for sure. And I think, you know, you start small, right? As we were talking about earlier, don't try and build the car from day one, take it in manageable steps. So yeah, I just thought I would share a little bit about where our product is at and sort of the journey that we've gone on. I haven't shown some of the really early stuff, but this is kind of the Arduino in a box. We've got just like an Arduino in a Peli waterproof case, and then we tried sticking out the inside of the manhole cover while the magnets weren't strong enough. It was too big. Yeah, it was totally impractical, but that, you know, that gave us some really good initial feedback, and then we were able to 3D print some stuff. You can do that really cheaply now. And then, oh, magnets again weren't strong enough. You know, we had breakages. Gosh, this doesn't actually work on every single manhole cover. So, okay, we need some more mounting options. Okay, well, maybe we could have zip ties so that it could then thread onto a pole or a grating. And okay, let's have a switch. Let's not, you know, again, all 3D printed, and then we were able to get some client feedback now, started having some paid trials, and then, oh, the switch setup, it's no good. And okay, well, what could we do in terms of setting up the product? Okay, well, we actually need a phone app. Okay, let's build kind of a basic phone app. And oh, hang on, they're getting interested in some larger orders. So how are we going to scale this thing? Oh, well, we might need to injection mold this. Let's do some injection molding sims. And then it's like, okay, well, starting to take steps towards certification. Well, what's going to be involved? Who are we going to use for that? You know, what's some cool things that we could do to filter out here? You've got an example of like you've got slope sides and you've got objects in there. Well, could we do some more signal processing and develop our own filtering of the signals? So you can see each stage has gotten more and more complex, and then we've built out the number of features, and then, you know, now we've got oh gosh, yeah, now this is the product that we've built and that we're taking to market. So each time though, we've had something that we've been able to go and show someone and get some feedback on and decide where to focus our time, energy, and money, which I think is the key thing, particularly with the hardware product, is to get that feedback so you know exactly what is the worthwhile stuff to do.
Well, this is awesome. I love this story. I'm learning more about your product today as well. And for those of you who are out there doing science or deep tech or hardware-based products, like keep these questions coming through the chat. We're going to move on now, but this is just, you know, a great chance to speak to Will about how to develop these products. So now we want you guys to actually like get your hands dirty and use some different tools. So we're going to start with a landing page. So a landing page is basically like the most basic kind of website, which is like one single page where you're basically testing one thing. Will people, when they come onto this website, give us their emails in exchange for like a promo video or like a toolkit or downloading like some asset that they might use, you know, or like sign up for a newsletter or a free course or whatever. So we're gonna like basically get you going on this. So over the next 15 minutes, you can actually start building stuff. So the first tool to bring this to life is I always like thinking about the visual identity of something because it makes it like kind of material and it kind of makes it exciting. So we're going to use a tool called Namecheap Logo Generator. There are tons of these tools out there. There are others using like generative AI and things, which I'll share in the chat. This is quite a basic one, but it like hopefully demonstrates something pretty quickly. So I'm founding Too Good To Go, And so I write my brand name in here, and the type of business is foods. And I write continue. Basically, all you need to do is choose different fonts that you like. So I like this one. This one's kind of cool. This one's kind of cool. This one's kind of cool. And then I'm going to choose a green color palette because we're talking about like waste. My slogan is save money, save food. Terrible slogan, but anyway. And then I'm going to choose some icons. So search for icons relating to food. I think this one's kind of cool. I'm going to select that one, and then click continue. And then within 30 seconds, I have tons of options for different logos. So I can just choose one of these very quickly. I kind of like this one, so I can click on here and check it out. It creates my business card design, my t-shirt design, my website design, my app design on the App Store. And I can also edit colors, the text, the slogan, the icon here in the left-hand panel. And to get access to it, in the bottom left, I just go sign up or log in to download. It's always kind of annoying. They ask for a confirmation code, but hopefully I can do this on the fly. Okay, now let me log in, hopefully. There we go, done. So that is now downloaded. Now I would like to think about my brand color palette. So most, when you do like your brand guidelines, you usually choose like 2 principal colors for a brand, and then often like 2 or 3 kind of supporting colors. And this tool called Coolors helps generate that really quickly. So you come into Coolors, and basically it lets you, it's like a random hex code generator. Hex codes are these like 6-character things at the bottom, and you can say, oh, okay, I like this green, and you can click lock, and then you click spacebar and it keeps generating. You can say, okay, I kind of like this pink, for example, and I like this gray. Anyway, I can choose my colors. These are all a little bit garish. But so within 20 seconds, I can choose like some hex codes for my brand. Next, I can choose some stock imagery, so royalty-free imagery to bring this to life. So on Pexels, there is tons of like free imagery that you can use, and I can come on here and like download these images. And I might want to call it takeaway food to make it a little bit more like my actual brand proposition. So, here are some interesting like stock images that I could use to bring my brand to life. Then we can start building a landing page. So Card is a very, very easy to use tool where you can get free templates for building landing pages. And so once you've logged in, you can click on landing page, and there are pro templates or there are free ones. So I'm just going to choose a very basic like free one. Where's the one I found earlier? Okay. I'll just use this one to demo. So I've chosen the template, and then oh God, my front door's gone again. Well, just I'll be back in 20 seconds.
No worries. I've been putting the links into the chat so you guys can follow along. And yeah, hopefully save those links. Remember, we will be putting up all these slides and the recordings onto the Mighty Networks. Yes, all of these tools are free. So yeah, you can hopefully create your landing page in no time over the course of this session or perhaps in the break. Yeah, looking forward to hopefully seeing some examples for those of you who might be willing to share your landing page towards the end of the session. That would be really fantastic.
Awesome. Cheers. And sorry, everyone, this is one of those mornings, perhaps. But you can see here on this template that you can very easily edit. Wow, I'm like out of breath. What are called these different containers or elements. So I can just change my text and say, save money, save food, impact the environment. And there we go. This is kind of coming to life. And then in this plus symbol, I can add an element. So for example, I can add an image and then go into my files, and then hopefully this nice Too Good to Go logo that I've just created. I can upload it here, boom, resize it, click accept. And then suddenly I have my brand image on my website, etc. I can preview the website to see what it looks like. I can add an image in here from Pexels, from the stock imagery that I've just found. I can save the website as Too Good to Go. And I can publish it. Literally, like, well, there's a couple of things I need to change, but you can see that within like 2 minutes, I can pick a template, make a few tweaks to the copy, add in some logos, some stock imagery, and publish it. And that website is literally live. So I'm gonna check in on some of the questions now. I'm also going to add some other tools in the chat, which might be useful. So Framer.ai is generative AI websites where you can basically write what your business does, and 30 seconds later, you will literally have a website. So it's text to website. What else? Midjourney, DALL-E, Canva AI, generative AI, branding or logos. There's tons of stuff out there. But at this point, it's over to you. So you can use the logo generator. And we are going to give you guys 2 minutes to make your first logo. Starting now. So check the chat, open that URL, and make your first logo.
We're going to be asking for some brave souls to share their logos and landing pages in due course. So yeah, give it your best shot.
Oscar says, can you change the name of the slogan and the brand and stuff in at later stages? For sure. I can show you some examples of how much brands have changed over their lifetime. I think the only like brand that's basically stayed the same is Coca-Cola, but like Instagram used to be called Bourbon and it had a terrible brand. Brands evolve, they change the name, they change the design, they change the slogan. This stuff, everything in startup land is in a state of flux. You also want to manage like the rate of change with your user base, because once they're used to a particular brand name or slogan, changing it can take time and it takes thinking and planning, but everything can change. Yes. Okay, you got 30 seconds left. Okay, and stop there. And if possible, we'd love you guys to do a screenshot of your brand. And in the chat, you should be able to see something like you can share a file or a screenshot in the chat. So love it. You can, yeah, share. Oh, okay. Alexa has shared A by A, the future of fashion. I love that. Was that from the Namecheap logo generator, Alexa? It's kind of awesome. Culture trend. These are awesome. Great to see. So hopefully you can like this has given you an approach to just like moving fast and way faster than you'd imagine. Neri Murai, hope I've pronounced that right. Kushik. Beast Buddies, Cozy Palm. Oh, love it. Okay, so in a second, we're going to just take a 5-minute break. But over that break, feel free to get stuck into Card. You can set up an account. It's got Google integrations, etc. So it's very quick to use. And you can just start playing around. Choose a landing page template, one of the free ones, not the pro ones. And you can upload your Pexel imagery, your logos. You can start writing your website copy. And for those of you who really want to move fast, why write your copy yourself when we've got ChatGPT? You can write a prompt into ChatGPT saying, I am an entrepreneur building a food waste business that helps consumers save money and time on their food purchases and generate more money for restaurants. Write the copy for my landing page with 3 key benefits and a compelling strap line. Boom. That's your copy done in 20 seconds. So you can move fast with this stuff. But we're going to be back in for part 2 of this session at 11:05. So see you guys there. Thank you. Okay, hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this session. If you're comfortable turning your videos back on, it's always nice to see your faces. So we've had tons of questions through. We've had all sorts of different brands and logos sent through. Rodrigo sent one for Urban Sustainability Hub, which looks awesome. And interested to hear whether anyone's had a chance to have a look at Card and made any progress there. Again, you can take a screenshot of your Card site and share it in the chat if you'd like. Or if anyone has any questions at this stage, we've covered a serious amount of ground in only an hour. If not, we will press on. Okay, well, keep your questions coming. As we've said, it's a really great opportunity to kind of get feedback and ideas on your kind of MVP roadmap and how to take your ideas forward. That's what today's all about. So we're going to share a few more kind of tools and tactics for building out your MVP. So the next one is newsletters. I'm sure everyone on this call subscribes to at least one newsletter, if not like 20. These have become really big business over the last few years. People can basically build their community and their user email list on a newsletter. Let's say if I'm building like online courses to learn about mental health, I can curate events, online courses, blog articles, latest research from psychologists, from the Institute of Psychiatry and Neuroscience at King's, whatever it might be. And using a tool like Substack, you can start building your user base. So Substack is a tool that I love because you can build your audiences, so your like user lists, and send out very easy to use content. And even better, you can turn it into a link, which you can post on LinkedIn or Twitter and say, check out my new Substack, which is about mental health education for university students. Sign up here, tell your friends. So Substack, there's lots of these tools. Substack is the one that I really like. You can even monetize your newsletter. So you'll see on some newsletters now people say like premium content, and to get the premium content, you pay £5 a month or whatever it is. So you can build your user lists, you can validate what content people are interested in, and you can start making money. So that's Substack. The next is a type of business that I am just like a massive believer in, which is community-led businesses. I feel very strongly that the brands that are able to build really strong community are the businesses that will succeed. And a great example is for all those runners out there, the Nike Plus running community is what is called like a halo, a brand halo around this global brand of Nike, where they run, they have an app where you can track your running history. You can get like a kind of feed of coaching in app from real coaches who motivate you. And importantly, there's like basically a franchise of chapters and community groups who meet up to do Nike organized run events. And what this does is build extraordinary loyalty behind your brand. And you see this in all sorts of different areas. And there are lots of different tools for building community. One of them is Slack. I'm sure lots of you use Slack. The free version offers you like tons of resources already. And another tool that I love is Mighty Networks. So to demo how Mighty Networks will look like, this is the Mighty Networks that we've actually set up for you guys. So I'm going to share it in the chat, but this is like a community for university-based entrepreneurs in London. And you have like a news feed, like on social media. You can host events in person or online. You can also build online courses. So we've actually built an online course for all of you guys to use, from idea generation to validating ideas, building startups, business model development. It's all there, ready to use. So you can join up, and that is free for you guys to use. And this is an amazing tool for building your communities and also monetizing. So you can actually turn this into like subscription tiers, a free one, a £10 one, £100 a month one, for example. It is an extremely valuable tool. And next, I wanted to show you the tool that for me has like kind of changed the game in terms of thinking about what technology looks like in 2024, which is called Glide. So Glide is a piece of software that lets you build no-code apps. So at a fundamental level, an app is a database with information that is valuable to your particular users. And that is the back end. And the app is an interface that lets you interact with that database in a seamless and easy to use way. So traditionally, you build a back end using different frameworks, PHP coding language, for example, and then you build a front end using different coding languages and build out all sorts of different interactivity tools. And then you would create a mechanism to pull data from the back end into the front end. And what Glide have said is, well, how about we use databases that everyone knows how to use, which is like spreadsheets. Everyone, I expect, on this call has used spreadsheets at some point. What Glide does is you can basically build a simple Google Sheet with different data types in different tabs and use that to power a front end where Glide has built all of the like interactivity tools that you might need to make this happen. So in a moment, I'm going to show you some examples on Glide. Just going to log into my account. But first, just like a very quick whistle-stop tour through like the fundamentals of app design. So it's tempting when building anything to jump straight into like the building of it. But first of all, you want to really think about your user. What have you discovered from your user research about what your user needs, what the goals that they have are, like what benefits are you looking to offer them, and how can you break that down into a sequence of steps that is as short as possible, as seamless as possible, and optimize for their goal. So my favorite app ever is Google Maps. I just think it is like the most extraordinary thing. You know, it is like a public-private collaboration using space technology, mapping. It's hugely complex, but it is one of the easiest to use apps because I use it most of all to like get from point A in London, home, or to work. And I've just got it open here. And the goal is immediate, which is search here for my destination, and I can click work, boom, and it's given me 4 different ways of getting there: walking, taxi, public transport, and bikes. And then I can press start and I can get on my way. That is 3 steps. 3 steps to get on my bike and get on my way to work. That is incredible optimization of like hugely complicated space and satellite technology and UX design and all sorts. Anyway, so as Will said, with his own like MVP development, start with the rudimentary materials, pen, paper that you've got around, and start thinking about your fundamentals. So a good place to start with an app is your goal. So for example, get Ed to work on his bike and draw out your app screens, just as like boxes, and start scribbling what is in each box. Often crappy app design looks like too much information, too small boxes, the wrong colors, the things in the wrong place, too much text, overwhelming information. Strip it all back to the most simple form, a little bit like here. Screen 1.
Even better if, I mean, a lot of you guys, I mean, you're affiliated with university, they'll have those breakout rooms with those nice big whiteboards. That is even better. And then you can wipe it out, you can redraw things, and then you can take the photo of that and then start digitizing it. That's exactly what we did with our installation app is, yeah, we got a nice big whiteboard, we sat in the room, we mapped out what the flow was going to look like, and then we played around with it and how things should be.
Totally. And one of the coolest things about doing this stuff on paper is, probably guessed, there is a tool called prototyping on paper that lets you, with pen and ink, draw your app screens, take a photo of each of them, and on the app, prototyping on paper, or POP, which is owned by Marvel, you can animate the buttons that you've drawn on pen and ink. So on your login screen, you can animate the ink box called like click login, and you'll click it and it'll go to the relevant next screen. Let's say your home screen. You can then animate all of your menu options on there. Then it will move to the next screen. All of this is just pen and ink, literal photos that have been animated. And you can take it out to your friends and be like, check this out. Start interacting with my pen and ink app. There's no code on there, but you're testing the fundamentals of what is called UX, user experience. Okay. So you can just get sketching, draw out 8 boxes on a piece of paper and think, what are my different screens for my potential app? A great place to start is log into your favorite app and look at each screen. Does it have one with a brand, and then it goes to a login, then it goes like welcome Ed, then there's a home screen, then there's another one, etc. Start with pen and ink. Move fast. And then once you've kind of thought about that, you can begin to think, okay, I know a lot more about what this app needs to look like. And then you can turn to a tool like Glide. And when creating a real functioning app, start with the user benefits and then turn those into sets of data. So for example, the way you structure a spreadsheet for Glide is, let's say I was running an app for tracking my expenses. I would have one table, which is all of my expense history. That is one type of data. Then you'd have another table for like the categories or meta categories of expense. So I can categorize all of my expenditure into one place. So one will be like pret-a-manger sandwich, another pret-a-manger sandwich, another pret-a-manger sandwich, another pret-a-manger soup, which is basically what my day-to-day looks like. A coffee, a bus trip on TfL, whatever. All of your different line items that you've spent on your Monzo card. And then the next tab, it will say a category like food, and it will total up all of those expenditures. Another category called travel, and it will total those. So that is your second data table. So thinking about what are the different data types and create a spreadsheet of all of those things. Is this making sense? Some of you, this might be stuff you've done before. Others, it might be like, what's that talking
I
about?
don't know if you've got that example, Ed, of the workout app. That was really good.
Yeah. So let me, yeah, as Will says, kind of bring this to life a little bit. Whereas, so this is what Glide looks like. Here are some like random projects I've been involved with. So here is what Glide looks like. Glide builds templates for you. This is literally a template. And as you can see, kind of looks like Monzo. But the place to start always is the data. So at the top of the screen here, you'll see data, layout, and settings. Start with the data. And in the background, you'll see this is just a spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet. And there's an overview, which is like the summary of what I've spent. There are the items. So all of the different types of expenditure that I've made, and structured by name, total cost, category, maybe like an icon for that category. Is this a one-off or a recurring expense? What date was it incurred? And this is how you structure data. So it will take a bit of getting used to initially, but in time, I think it becomes intuitive how this data is structured. And then click on categories. And then here are my like meta categories: rent, total rent. And then here are the different items of rent linked to the category. So that's the data in the background. And then the layout. This is the interactivity tools that Glide provides for you out of the box. Here's the summary. And then it's got one feature: add expense, pret sandwich, £5. And I'm going to tag it to dining out and then submit expense. And it will be added to my spend this month. And then on the right-hand side, you can see all sorts of different styling approaches. But I'm going to show you what this looks like with an actual app. So a friend of mine who's a personal trainer during COVID was like, I don't know what to do. I can't do this stuff in person. So we looked at how Glide could convert what she does into like online videos. And just moving my different screens around, you can see there is a workout index here with a list of all sorts of different workouts. This is all from a template. It's super easy to create. And you can see in the background, there's lots of data. There's maybe too much to go through now, but you can see here are the different workouts by like category, the instructions, a workout image. There's like a how-to video, some tips. So the data is all structured in the background. And then I can start playing around with interactivity tools. So here, this is under checklist on the style options. So I can say, yep, I've done that. I've done that. I've done my calf raises. Or I might want to list it as a list. Here is just a list of different activities or tiles. So this is kind of maybe a nice way of favoriting. I can favorite ones that I like, and then it will appear as like my favorite workout type. If I had structured the data by date, let's say these are events that are upcoming or one-off, I can create a calendar. I could tag them to a particular address. I could turn it into a map. I can have them as like cards. There's a swipe functionality for any dating app users out there. And this is where on details, you can go into a bit more detail. So those are like different interactivity tools. And then in settings, I can also go and like upload, you know, my logo, for example. So I mean, this is not too good to go, but like I can very quickly add my logo, different color palettes, privacy controls, integrations, and also like user agreements, sign-in screens, and ways to monetize. And the best thing about this is, honestly, you can build something in like an hour, and then in the top right, click share, and then copy the app link, or write Will's email, will@manhole.com. It's not Will's email, but anyway, I could click send invite, and then Will would get a link, and you could just add that app directly to your home screen, and Will could start using it literally right now. So this is like a crazily powerful tool. I'm going to stop sharing just to check in on any questions. Any questions from the group at this point? Will, how did you go about kind of scoping out your app?
Yeah, so we did sort of very similar to what you described. We went into this room with this big whiteboard, and then we drew each of these screens. There was a lot of rubbing out and redoing and checking things, and then we were stressing over the wording and the exact flow. But then we were able to implement that, and we were able to just test it over and over. You know, the person who was building it, me, and then we tried it with external people. We got all their feedback, and then, you know, I think the hard thing is actually having something to begin with. You can always go, much like with any kind of coursework assignment. The first draft is probably going to be terrible, but it's a starting point, and you can improve from there. So just getting something out there, being able to test it, that's the most important. And yeah, we used a similar kind of tool that managed a lot of instead of having to try and get your own app on the App Store, then you have a third-party app, and then it manages a lot of this for you. And yeah, we're now in the process of coming out with our own app and getting it to work on Android, making sure we're happy with the wording and the flow. And you know, once you test these things out, it becomes much easier. But the key thing is going from 0 to 1, so then you can go from 1 to 100.
Awesome. And Will, taking this a step forward, how did you go about testing your app with users?
How do we go? Well, I mean, with our investors, with our clients, you know, subcontractors, all getting their feedback, and we're still doing that. I think it's an iterative process, and it's something that never really stops. Always looking for feedback, and then you know you start adding in more and more features, and it becomes more of a creature, and with different limbs, and you know it's a work in progress always. But yeah, anyone you can get your hands on, really find out, you know, what's going to be really complicated to implement, you know, making those unknown unknowns into known unknowns, and understand what might be involved and where to spend your time, where's going to be the most valuable thing and features, what do people like, what do people dislike. Just trying to get that feedback so you know where to spend your time, because there's always going to be more that you can do, but if you never try it out and you never get the feedback, then what's the point? Hard to know.
Great stuff. Okay, so but just before we go into the user testing part, some questions in the chat about AIs. There's AIs for pretty much everything at the moment. It depends on like what your use case is. And you know, Sani talks about like prototyping using AI. There are tons of different ways to approach that. I think it's like a bigger conversation to kind of better understand your goals. But you know, DALL-E is like a text to image AI where you can potentially conceptualize what a prototype might look like. But I would think about that roadmap of breaking down all of your like component tests to think about what you're testing for and then go and look for a solution. Don't start with like the AI and work backwards. Think about what you're trying to test and then make up a come up with the plan. I've just included my LinkedIn in the chat if you've got more questions that we can address kind of like on the side. Okay, so into the last half an hour of today's session, I wanted to talk a little bit more about user testing. As we've said kind of all the way along, the MVPs fundamentally are tests. They're not products so much, well, they are products, but they are tests most of all. So getting this user feedback is really important. And here we're imagining this is in the case of like app design, but these approaches are valid whatever kind of product you are testing. So there are different types of testing. It can be like remote or in person. It can be supervised or unsupervised. So for example, you can use apps called like usertesting.com to do remote tests of apps and things like that. But imagine you are sitting on a Zoom call or in person with someone using your product. At this stage, you want to frame what the product is about and get them to like personify your user. So imagine you are this user trying to achieve this, and then hand the product over to them. And you kind of want to step back. What often happens is people try and pitch people during a user test, and that is very bad approach because you are forcing behaviors rather than observing behaviors. So if people say, oh, I'm lost, and you're like, oh, you shouldn't be lost, click there. Instead, it's much better to say, why are you lost? What are you looking for? You know, what could improve this design, and documenting, not forcing them to behave in the way that you expect them to, because you don't learn if you use that approach. I like to use these 4 categories for fundamental tests. Number 1, what they liked. Number 2, what they'd change, basically what they didn't like. Number 3, questions I have. What does this mean? I don't understand this bit. Where's this thing? Whatever. And then new ideas. Crowdsource and co-design ideas with your users. And see where, you know, where those ideas take you. MVPs have to act to generate data to prove or bring evidence for or against your hypotheses. So you have to go and run tests. So this is like one approach to make that happen. Keep the questions coming. We're gonna roll into the last section of today. And to kick that off, we wanted to give you guys like 5 minutes to start planning your MVP. And the way I like to do that is to start, not with the product, not with the tool, the AI, the platform, whatever. Start with the test. You are scientists here. So I want to test, for example, based on a short intro to my idea, I want to test if potential users will sign up for my newsletter. The reason is this will help qualify their intent to buy a future product. And I put success criteria against that test. My expected result is that 5% of users will sign up. If it's more than that, winning. If it's less, I might need to improve something. Okay. And then once you put your test in place, you can then say, okay, here are some ideas of potential MVPs. A landing page on Carrd, an integrated Typeform survey, capturing who these people are, what problems you could solve for them. Or it could be like a promo video used with this amazing generative AI video production tool called Veed. Google Ads or content marketing. But basically here, you're just like mapping out your MVPs and what purpose they serve. I've included one example here, but really you probably have multiple different hypotheses that you want to test, which is about your branding, your marketing, your copy, your value proposition, the product itself, how it works, how you can improve it. So we're going to go over to you guys, and we're going to spend 5 minutes with each of you thinking about your MVP action plan. And then you can share that with the group, and you can get some feedback. So 5 minutes on that, starting now. Let us know if anything is unclear. Anyone interested? I've just shared a couple of really incredible market research AI tools. Plus Docs basically creates like a whole market sizing deck for you in like 5 minutes. Also had more of a technical question from James about testing something that is like a cosmetic product. I want to break down the different types of MVP here, because then MVP can be a website testing testing whether people are interested in a product. There is also a clinical trial to test the potential like dermatological or health impacts of a product. That's a whole other thing. And today is not about approaches to clinical trials, because yes, you need ethical approval and regulatory approval and insurance. So I would, for the purpose of today, treat that as a separate topic. Because yes, it needs to be done in the right way. And I wouldn't go out and like start doing human tests of like a new cosmetic product on people's hands without having done the previous steps. But your MVP can also be about like market validation. Do people care? Will they pay for it even before the product exists? Okay, and that is time up. Who would like to share their approach to their MVP plan? Feel free to unmute if it's easier.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to.
Go for it.
As you mentioned, it's quite different to what you've been describing. We're developing a cosmetic/pharma product for Raynaud, so that's called Ham. We've done the market research already, and we price test this to see how people would use it if there was a product. What we're going to do is we're going to make the product without the active substances, and then we're going to try and put it on people's hands to see what they feel it's like. We're going to then put the active substances in and then put it on our own hands and then use thermal images. What we want to do is then put this to a low-key ethical trial, but that's quite hard. We're trying. That's our stepwise approach here.
Yeah, that's great. I think to kind of tie this back to today's session, I would encourage you to, so you've done the market research, but you really want to build out an engaged database of future customers. And
Okay.
today is also about that. You know, like, for example, you could run a newsletter for, and this is just an example, but like for like tactical approaches for dealing with cold weather for those who experience Raynaud's, and you are looking to build an engaged audience from 10 to 100 to 10,000 or whatever, and you're like, okay, we're validating the market here. We're not validating the product, but we're validating that what we are doing, our value proposition, which is basically improving the effects of Raynaud's, that opportunity is there. And then once you've done your clinical trials and it's ready to go to market, you've got those guys like ready to launch into. If you wait to do that and don't do it in parallel, you'll have your product ready, but no one to sell it to.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Alia asks about networking apps. Totally agree with Will. Mighty Networks, Slack, WhatsApp, LinkedIn groups, Glide. There's a million places. Depends on what you're trying to build and what you're trying to test.
Well, the key thing with the networking app is that you're trying to build a community, right, Ed? So to try and start building that community and following as early on as possible is going to be really important. So yeah, whether that's getting people to sign up for a newsletter or to sign up to your Slack channel or WhatsApp group or Mighty Networks, it's just showing that there's interest in joining this community or engaging with other people under that niche or whatever that might be. That's the key thing.
So any other kind of MVP roadmaps to share? Great chance to get feedback. No. Okay.
Anyone maybe in the chat, if you're a bit afraid, maybe you can let us know what concrete next steps you're going to take after this session to take your MVP to the next level.
So just while we're waiting for anyone to write in the chat, we're going to move on to the last step, which is launching a product. So at this point, you've done your user research, your market research, you've understood the features and benefits that your users are looking for. You've begun thinking about different prototypes and MVPs. You've got data back on all of those MVPs. Now, what does it take to launch something to market? And this is going to be a set of suggestions that are relevant to some products, where with others, when there are like more complicated, let's say regulatory or clinical approvals that you need to go through, let's put that to one side for now. They are very important, but this is like at a basic level, how do you launch a new product? What we keep banging on about is building this database of customers. As I just mentioned to James, you want to build your audience of supporters at the earliest stage. So every time you do some user research, capture their email, ask them, would you like to find out more about this product in the future? Ask them, can you refer us on to 3 or 5 people in your network who might be interested? Capture their names, their emails, their organization, and the problem that you might help to solve for them. And this database, honestly, will become the basis of your future business, whether they're customers, whether they're, companies, whether it's B2B or B2C. Build your user database. And then once you've got that database, here are some ideas about how you can build a community around this, even way before your product exists in physical form. Newsletters, curated content, Slack groups, WhatsApp, Discord, Mighty Networks. So you can build an engaged community and grow that customer base, and or also build that community on socials. I'm by no means an expert on social media. I try and avoid it like the plague, but my advice here is to really think what's one or possibly 2, but ideally one social platform your audience uses most, and optimize for that. The other thing is that you can challenge yourself to think that one content type, how can one piece of content become like 5 or even 10? So if you do an interview with someone, that can become a YouTube like video or playlist. It can become a blog, transcribe the text, turn it into a blog. It can become a case study, a testimonial, a pull quote, a carousel ad, etc., etc. Then to launch your first product, start small. I've heard of people who have like tried to make their product perfect and then suddenly launch it to 10,000 people all at once. Your first product will go wrong in some way, for sure. test with one person, then 10, and then 50, and then grow incrementally and iterate. Then like build hype, get people excited, do a countdown on social media. If you've got something that's really newsworthy, you could potentially engage journalists. I would maybe not focus on that at the earlier stage because it's very hard to get journalists involved, but it's just a thought. You could get on Product Hunt, which is like a marketplace to engage people with new products. You can run events, bring your product to life with panel discussions, online webinars. You can capture more users for your future products by running events. Content marketing, potentially low budget paid advertising, and drive referrals. Get your first 10 or 20 early adopters to act as evangelists for your product and drive referrals to what you're doing. Will, what was your version of your kind of early stages of launching your product?
Oh gosh, it was, yeah, a lot of failure, stuff not working out as it should, but we spoke to so many people and we were able to try it out. We were able to get the feedback that let us go from a very terrible product to something that was much better. But it was, it was making that baby step, going 0 to 1 before then you can go 1 to 100. So yeah, we were able to find that early user group and convert kind of your first users into being even potentially your first customers and helping you create a great product. And yeah, I think just to iterate, baby steps, and yeah, find that group of people who are going to be your go-to for testing and let you going to that you're going to be able to create something really great.
So we've had a good question from Emmeline about testing with what is called a two-sided marketplace, like Uber, provision of taxi rides, and the people who need the taxi rides. If you're doing a two-sided marketplace, you need to test with both. You need your taxi drivers to want to use the app and engage with it effectively, and the people who need taxi rides to engage with your app to like book the rides. Same with Too Good To Go. Though you're dependent on both those user groups, so make sure you test with both. Okay, so we're coming to the end of today's session. I wanted to like put out a a call for you guys if you are working in health or environment and looking to build this business. Then like the VC that I work for, we build ventures. We bring on talented people with ideas, we build teams around you, we invest in you, open up access to like regulated markets in climate, in health, help you with your go-to-market, product development, and applications are open like right now. It takes 15 minutes to apply. So if you're interested, then I've just shared the link in the chat. And
a really interesting question from Emmeline actually around getting feedback on your users versus your customers, where to spend your time. I don't know, Ed, if you want to tackle this one.
Oh, I just mentioned that on.
Sorry, I was responding to another question.
Oh yeah, no worries. It's always juggling things, right, when hosting these workshops. So I've shared the link in the chat to Zinc if you want to apply to our Venture Builder. Applications are rolling. The sooner you apply, like the higher your chance of getting in. So I'd apply over the next 2 weeks. Then a separate thing is for those working in what's called deep tech. So IP-driven startups. We do also invest directly into those businesses. So for those of you who are like at TRL 3 to 5, if you know what I mean, then this might be for you. Then you can also apply for investment via the link that I've just sent in the chat. So we're going to wrap up there. Will, did you have any kind of like key takeaways for the group to think about?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway for me would be that a first iteration of your MVP might not be as challenging as you might suspect, and that you can start really small, and small doesn't mean insignificant. Small is a good place to start, and that it is a long journey, but if you can get feedback, you can make little steps each with each and every iteration. Then that's exactly what you should be doing. There's no time like the present to begin on that journey, and hopefully end up with a great product and have something that is validated by your users and be able to convert them into your first customers.
Yeah, awesome. So I think my main thing is to like challenge yourself to go from I need 100K and 12 months to I've got a day or an hour. Like, what can I build? What are the tools out there to build quickly? And most of all, to break down your MVP into a series of tests of assumptions. And that is not just, does the product work? It's, are the people out there? Will they engage? Will my audience grow? How often will they use it? How much do they like it? Will they tell their friends? Will they pay £1, £10, £100,000 for it? Like, what are the different fundamental assumptions? And how can you build that roadmap through a series of tests to build and validate your startup through a bunch of these different MVPs? So I hope today has been like a useful kind of starter pack to make that happen. I posted my LinkedIn in the chat. Also for those guys, as I mentioned, looking to like build health and environment ventures, like please do apply to Zinc. We are like one of the kind of UK's leading places for building ventures in those spaces. And most of all, thanks a lot for being here today, and good luck with the next step in the competition. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, bye.